A desperate text sent to the wrong number on the worst night of her life. Not to her mother, but to the city's most dangerous mafia boss. What he found in that apartment would change both their lives forever. Follow this story to the end, hit like, and comment what city you're watching from so I can see how far this story travels. The kitchen floor was cold against Sienna Cruz's cheek. She'd stopped trying to get up about 10 minutes ago, maybe longer. Time moved differently when you couldn't think past the pain. Her right arm lay at an angle that made her stomach turn every time she looked at it. Broken. Definitely broken. The swelling had already started, turning the skin tight and hot. She'd tried to move it once. Once was enough. The apartment was quiet now. Marcus had left, slammed out the door after throwing her into the counter hard enough to crack something. She wasn't sure if it was the cabinet or her ribs. Both, probably. He'd be back. He always came back. Sienna pressed her forehead against the linoleum and tried to remember how to breathe without it hurting. Failed. Everything hurt. Her face throbbed where he'd hit her. Her back screamed where she'd landed. Her arm. Don't think about the arm. She needed help. Real help. Not the kind where she lied to the ER nurses again about falling downstairs. Not the kind where she wore long sleeves in summer and smiled through the questions. The kind where someone actually stopped him. Her phone had skidded under the table when she fell. She could see it from here, screen cracked but still glowing. 3 feet away. Might as well be 3 miles with her arm like this. She started crawling. Every movement sent fire through her shoulder. Twice she had to stop and wait for the black spots to clear from her vision. Her good hand finally closed around the phone, and she dragged herself back against the cabinet, breathing hard. Her mother. She'd call her mother. Mom would know what to do. Mom always knew what to do. Sienna pulled up the contact with shaking fingers. Pressed call. Nothing happened. No signal. Of course. Marcus had been threatening to cut off her phone for weeks. Looked like he'd finally done it. Text then. Text sometimes went through even when calls didn't. She typed with her thumb, each letter taking forever. Mom, I need help. He hurt me bad this time. Please, come. 2247 Ashford Avenue, apartment 6B. Her vision blurred. She blinked hard and added, please hurry, send. The message hung there for a second. That little spinning wheel of hope. Then, delivered. Thank God. Sienna let her head fall back against the cabinet. Help was coming. She just had to wait, just had to stay conscious and wait. She closed her eyes. Across the city, Lucien Varela was having a remarkably boring evening. He sat in his office on the top floor of a building he didn't technically own, not on paper anyway, reviewing shipping manifests that should have bored him to death, but didn't. This was the part of his work people didn't understand. They thought it was all guns and drama. Mostly it was logistics and spreadsheets. He was reaching for his second coffee when his phone buzzed. Unknown number. He almost ignored it. Almost. But something made him look. Mom, I need help. He hurt me bad this time. Please come. 2247 Ashford Avenue, apartment 6B. Please hurry. Lucien stared at the screen. Wrong number. Obviously. Someone's kid texting their mother. Except, he hurt me bad this time. This time. Not the first time. This time. His jaw tightened. He knew that address. Ashford Avenue ran through the east side, lower income area, older buildings. Apartment 6B would be, what, 6th floor? No, these older buildings didn't go that high. Ground floor then? Unit B. He shouldn't respond. It wasn't his business. Someone had mistyped their mother's number and he'd accidentally intercepted a family emergency. The right thing to do was ignore it. Lucien looked at the message again. He hurt me bad this time. His sister's voice echoed in his head. Different words, same fear. He'd been 17 when she called him that night. 17 and useless and 300 miles away at school. By the time he got home, she was in the ICU. She never made it out. His finger moved before his brain caught up. I'm on my way. He was already standing, already moving. His men looked up as he strode through the outer office. Dante, Marco, with me. Now. They didn't question. They never questioned. Just grabbed their jackets and followed him to the elevator. Where are we going? Dante asked as the doors slid shut. 2247 Ashford Avenue. What's there? Don't know yet. Marco and Dante exchanged a look but stayed quiet. Smart. Lucian's phone buzzed again as they hit the lobby. Thank God. Mom, I'm scared. He said he's coming back. His blood went cold when the response came fast. I don't know, maybe an hour? He went to get drunk. He always comes back worse when he drinks. Lucian checked his watch. 30 minutes to Ashford if they pushed it. 25 if they really pushed it. Marco, drive. They took his car, the black Audi he kept for situations that needed speed more than subtlety. Marco drove like he was running from the devil himself, which wasn't far from the truth. Lucian sat in the back and typed, "Lock your door. Don't open it for anyone except me." How will I know it's you? Good question. Smart girl, even terrified. I'll knock 3 times, pause, twice more. Don't open it for any other pattern. Okay, what's your name? The pause stretched long enough that he thought she wouldn't answer. Sienna. Sienna. I'm Lucian. Stay away from the door. Stay quiet. I'm 15 minutes out. He watched the dots appear and disappear 3 times before her response came. Why are you helping me? Lucian looked out the window at the city streaming past. Why was he helping her? He didn't know her, didn't owe her anything. This wasn't his fight, because someone should have helped my sister. He didn't expect to send that. Didn't expect the truth to just slip out like that. I'm sorry. Don't be sorry. Just stay safe until I get there. Sienna stared at her phone with something between relief and absolute terror. A stranger was coming to help her. A stranger she'd accidentally texted instead of her mother. A stranger who could be anyone, could want anything. But he'd said the right things. Known what questions to ask. And something about that message, because someone should have helped my sister, felt raw enough to be real. She didn't have a lot of options anyway. Using the counter for leverage, she dragged herself upright. The room tilted. She grabbed the edge of the sink and waited for it to steady. Her arm hung useless at her side, screaming with every heartbeat. The front door. She needed to lock it. The apartment was small. 1 bedroom, barely a living room. Kitchen you couldn't turn around in without bumping something. Marcus had said it was temporary when they moved in 3 years ago. Temporary had a way of becoming permanent when you were too scared to leave. She made it to the door and twisted the deadbolt. Then the chain, then the doorknob lock. All of it. Every barrier she had. It wouldn't stop Marcus if he really wanted in. It never did. But maybe it would slow him down. Maybe it would buy enough time for what? For Lucian to arrive? She didn't even know who Lucian was. Sienna slid down with her back against the door and pulled out her phone again. No new messages. She should text her actual mother, explain what happened. Except, how did you explain this? Hi, Mom. I texted a stranger by mistake, and now he's coming to rescue me from Marcus, and I think I might be making the worst decision of my life, but also maybe the only decision that keeps me alive? Yeah, that'd go over well. Her phone buzzed. 10 minutes. Has he come back? No good. When I get there, don't open the door until you hear the knock pattern. 3. Pause. 2. Understand? Yes, Sienna. Yes? Whatever happens tonight, you're going to be okay. She wanted to believe that. Wanted it so badly it made her chest ache worse than her ribs. But she'd stopped believing in okay a long time ago. Lucian's phone rang. He almost ignored it, then saw the caller ID. What? Boss. His second-in-command, Victor, sounded amused. Dante just called. Said you're tearing across town for an emergency nobody knows about. Want to share? No? Fair enough. You need backup? Lucian considered. Not yet. Maybe. I'll call you. You're being cryptic. I'm being busy. He hung up and checked the time. 7 minutes. The east side was sliding past now, buildings getting shorter and grimier. Ashford Avenue appeared on a corner sign. Marco slowed just enough to make the turn without flipping the car. There, Lucian said, pointing. 2247. It was worse than he'd pictured. 6-story building, maybe 50 years old, paint peeling, half the windows covered with sheets instead of curtains. The kind of place where people minded their business because minding someone else's could get you hurt. Marco pulled up to the curb. All 3 of them got out. The entrance door hung crooked on its hinges. No security, no buzzer system, just a broken lock and a stairwell that smelled like piss and old cigarettes. Ground floor, Lucian said. Unit B. They found it at the end of the hall. 6B painted in faded numbers on a door that had seen better decades. He could hear the TV from the unit next door, music from somewhere upstairs. Normal sounds. Life happening while someone inside this apartment bled on the kitchen floor. He knocked. 3 times, paused, twice, nothing. Lucian's chest tightened. What if she'd passed out? What if the boyfriend came back early? What if... The chain rattled. Then the deadbolt. Then the doorknob. The door opened 3 inches and stopped. A woman looked out at him through the gap. Young, mid-20s maybe. Dark hair falling around a face that was already bruising. Brown eyes wide with fear and pain and desperate hope. Sienna? You're Lucian? Yes. She stared at him for a long moment, taking in his expensive coat, his 2 men standing behind him, the car at the curb that cost more than this building. You're not what I expected, she whispered. Neither are you. Can we come in? Another pause, then she stepped back and opened the door. The apartment was worse than the hallway. Cheap furniture, bare walls, everything worn down and used up. And blood. Not a lot, but enough. Drops on the kitchen floor, a smear on the counter. Sienna stood in the middle of it all, holding her right arm against her body. Even from here he could see it was broken. Could see the way she was favoring her left side. Could see the fingerprint bruises already forming on her throat. Dante made a sound behind him, low and dangerous. Who did this? Lucian asked. His voice came out quieter than he meant it to. My husband. She said it without emotion, just fact. Marcus? Where is he? I don't know, a bar somewhere. He'll come back when they close. Lucian checked his watch. When do they close? 2, maybe 3. 30 minutes, maybe 90 if they were lucky. Marco, check the perimeter. I want to know every way in and out of this building. Dante, call Victor. Tell him to send a car and a medic. Both men moved immediately. Lucienne turned back to Sienna. She was still standing in the middle of the room like she didn't know what to do. Like maybe she'd forgotten how to do anything except survive. Can you walk? He asked. I think so. You need a hospital. I can't. She stopped, started again. He'll find me there. He always finds me. Not this time. You don't understand, Marcus, Her voice cracked. He's not going to just let me go. That's not really up to him anymore. She looked at him like she wanted to believe it but didn't know how. You don't know what he's like. No, Lucian agreed. But he's about to find out what I'm like. Something flickered across her face. Not quite relief. Not quite fear. Something in between. Why are you doing this? She asked again. You don't even know me. Lucian thought about his sister. About the phone call that came too late. About all the ways he'd failed her because he was young and far away and didn't understand that sometimes you had to act first and ask questions later. Because someone should, he said. Heck, Sienna didn't know what to make of Lucian Varela. He stood in her kitchen like he owned it, like he owned everything, really, and looked at her with eyes that were probably supposed to be cold but weren't. Not exactly. There was something else there, something that looked almost like understanding, or maybe she was delirious from the pain. His phone rang. He answered without looking away from her. Yeah, How long? Good. Bring her up first, then we'll figure out the rest. He hung up. A car's coming. We're getting you out of here. I can't just leave. Why not? Because where would she go? Because Marcus would find her anyway? Because leaving meant admitting how bad things had gotten? Because this is my home. This isn't a home. His voice stayed level. This is a cage. There's a difference. She wanted to argue, wanted to defend the apartment she'd tried so hard to make livable, the life she'd tried so hard to save. But looking around now through a stranger's eyes, she saw it for what it was. He was right. This was a cage. I don't have anywhere else, she said quietly. You do now. I don't even know you. You knew me enough to ask for help. I thought you were my mother. But you kept texting anyway. He tilted his head slightly. Why? Sienna looked down at her arm, at the bruises, at the blood on her shirt. Because I'm tired of being afraid. Good. Fear makes you small. Anger makes you dangerous. I'm not dangerous. Not yet. Something in the way he said it made her look up, made her wonder what he saw when he looked at her. Probably not what she saw in the mirror every morning, someone broken down and used up and barely holding on. Footsteps in the hallway. Lucian moved before she could blink, positioning himself between her and the door. His hand went to his jacket. She caught the glint of metal. He had a gun. Of course he had a gun. 3 knocks. Pause. 2 knocks. Lucian relaxed. Opened the door. A woman came in. 40-something, short gray hair, carrying a medical bag that had seen serious use. She took one look at Sienna and shook her head. Dios mío, how long's the arm been like that? Maybe an hour, Sienna managed. Can you move your fingers? She tried. Pain shot up to her shoulder. Not really. Okay, don't. The woman, she hadn't introduced herself, set her bag down and started pulling out supplies. I'm Rosa. I've been patching up idiots for Lucian for about 8 years now. You're the first one who actually deserves the help. I don't... Shut up and sit down before you fall down. Sienna sat. Rosa worked with quick, sure hands, cutting away her sleeve to get at the arm. Each touch sent fire through her bones. It's broken, Rosa confirmed. Clean break, looks like. You'll need it set properly at a hospital. No hospitals, Sienna said. She's right, Lucian added. Too exposed. Rosa sighed. Fine. I can splint it for now. But in a few hours she needs real medical care or she'll have permanent damage. Few hours works. What happens in a few hours? Sienna asked. We make sure your husband doesn't hurt you again. Lucian said it like he was discussing the weather. Calm. Matter of fact. Terrifying. Sienna's stomach twisted. What are you going to do to him? What needs to be done? That's not an answer. It's the only answer you're getting right now. His phone buzzed. He checked it and frowned. Marco says there's a man outside watching the building. 40s, heavy build, leather jacket. Her blood went cold. That's Tommy. He's Marcus's friend. Which means Marcus knows someone's here. He's going to come back early. Her voice came out small, scared. He's not going to do anything. Lucian's voice cut through her panic. Rosa, how much longer? 10 minutes to stabilize the arm. Make it 5. Rosa shot him a look but moved faster. The splint came together quickly, temporary but solid. She wrapped it tight enough to make Sienna gasp. Sorry, Chica, needs to be immobile. Rosa taped off the bandage and stepped back. That'll hold for now, but I mean it about the hospital. Noted. Lucian looked at Sienna. Can you stand? She tried, made it halfway before her legs decided they'd had enough. Lucian caught her before she hit the floor. I've got you, he said quietly. And the thing was, she believed him. He lifted her like she weighed nothing. She should have protested, should have insisted she could walk on her own. But her body had hit its limit about 20 minutes ago and wasn't taking suggestions anymore. Dante, Lucian called. The man appeared in the doorway. Clear path to the car? Tommy's still out there. Deal with him. How permanent we talking? Lucian glanced down at Sienna. Scared but breathing. We're not starting a war tonight. Copy. Dante disappeared. Lucian carried her into the hallway. Rosa grabbed her bag and followed. They made it to the stairwell before they heard it. A car door slamming, footsteps on pavement, angry voices. Marcus. Sienna's entire body went rigid. He's here. I know. You don't understand. He'll Sienna. Lucian stopped moving, looked down at her. I need you to trust me. Can you do that? She didn't trust anyone, hadn't in years. Trust got you hurt, trust got you trapped. But what choice did she have? Okay, she whispered. Good. Rosa, take her down the back way. Get her in the car. What about you? Rosa asked. I'm going to have a conversation. He set Sienna on her feet carefully. Rosa moved in immediately, supporting her weight. Go, Lucian said. Don't stop until you're in the car. What if he won't. Sienna wanted to argue, wanted to explain that Marcus didn't respond to reason or intimidation or anything except violence. but Rosa was already pulling her toward the back stairs. The last thing she saw before they turned the corner was Lucien Varela walking toward the front entrance with the kind of calm that probably meant someone was about to have a very bad night. Lucien met Marcus Cruz in the lobby. He'd pictured someone bigger, more threatening. Instead, he got a guy about 5'10", soft around the middle, wearing a beer-stained shirt and too much cologne. The kind of man who hurt women because he couldn't handle anyone who might hit back. Marcus stopped when he saw him. "Who the fuck are you?" "Wrong question," Lucien said. "Right question is what I'm doing in your building." "I don't give a shit what you're doing. Move." "No." Marcus's face went red. "Listen, asshole, I don't know who you think you are. I'm the man who's about to explain how your life works now." Lucien kept his voice level, reasonable, the most dangerous tone he had. "You're not going back to that apartment. You're not going near Sienna again. You're going to turn around, walk away, and seriously reconsider your life choices." "Like hell I am. That's my wife up there." "Not anymore." Marcus lunged. Big mistake. Lucien sidestepped and let the drunk momentum carry him past. Marcus stumbled, caught himself on the wall, turned around swinging. The punch was slow, sloppy. Lucien caught his wrist, twisted, and put him face first against the wall hard enough to rattle his teeth. "Let me be clear," Lucien said quietly, right in his ear. "You put your hands on that woman for the last time. You go near her again, you text her, you so much as think about her too hard, and I'll make sure you spend the rest of your life regretting it. We understand each other?" Marcus tried to push back. Lucien pressed harder. He heard something pop. Marcus screamed. "Do we understand each other?" "Fuck you!" Wrong answer. Lucien stepped back and let him turn around. Marcus came up swinging again. This time Lucien didn't dodge. Just let the punch land, weak, pathetic thing that it was, and smiled. "That's assault," he said pleasantly. "You just assaulted me. In front of witnesses." He nodded toward the stairwell where Marco and Dante stood watching. Both of them pulled out their phones, started recording. Marcus's face went white. Me," Lucien agreed. "Now here's what's going to happen. You're going to file for divorce. Quick, quiet. You're going to sign whatever papers she puts in front of you. You're going to disappear from her life completely. And if you're smart, which I doubt, but let's pretend, you'll leave the city entirely. And if I don't?" Lucien leaned in close. "Then I'll make sure everyone knows what kind of man you really are. Your boss, your friends, your family. I'll ruin you so completely you'll wish I'd just killed you instead." He paused. "And then, after you've lost everything, I might kill you anyway." He meant every word. Marcus must have heard it in his voice because the fight went out of him all at once. "Who are you?" he asked again, quieter this time. "I'm someone who keeps his promises." Lucien stepped back. "Now get out of my sight." Marcus ran. Actually ran. Stumbled out the door and into the night like the coward he was. Dante appeared at Lucien's shoulder. "Think he'll stay gone?" "No." "Want me to make sure he stays gone?" Lucien considered it, really considered it. It would be easy, clean, one less piece of shit in the world. But he'd promised Sienna they weren't starting a war tonight. "Not yet," he said. "Watch him. If he comes back, call me." "Copy that, boss." Lucien walked out to where Rosa had the car waiting. Sienna sat in the back seat, pale and shaking but alive. Whole. Safe. For now. He slid in next to her. "We're leaving." "Where are we going?" "Somewhere safe." "There's no such thing." "There is now." The car pulled away from the curb. Sienna watched her apartment building disappear through the rear window. Lucien watched her, saw the exact moment she realized she'd just left her entire life behind. "I don't even know you," she said again, but this time it sounded less like an accusation and more like a question. "You will," he promised. And somehow, sitting there in the back of a car with a stranger who'd just upended her entire existence, Sienna Cruz started to believe that maybe, just maybe, she might actually survive this. The city lights blurred past. Dawn was still hours away. And somewhere behind them, in an apartment that smelled like fear and broken promises, the blood on the kitchen floor was already drying. But Sienna wasn't there to see it. She was already gone. The house appeared out of nowhere, or that's how it felt to Sienna, half conscious in the back seat, as they drove through neighborhoods that got progressively quieter and more expensive. Wrought iron gates, manicured lawns, the kind of silence that only money could buy. They pulled through a security gate that opened without anyone pressing a button. Motion sensors, probably. Or cameras. Both. "Where are we?" she asked. "My place," Lucian said. "One of them, anyway." Of course he had multiple houses. She should have guessed. The car stopped in a circular driveway in front of a house that was too big to be called a house. Estate, maybe. Mansion, definitely. 3 stories of stone and glass that probably cost more than she'd earn in 10 lifetimes. Rosa opened Sienna's door. "Easy now, let's get you inside." Inside was worse. Or better. Sienna couldn't decide. High ceilings, marble floors, art on the walls that looked like it belonged in a museum. Everything perfect and untouchable and so far removed from her kitchen floor that it felt like a different planet entirely. "Guest room's on the 2nd floor," Lucian said, leading the way. "Rosa, get her settled. I need to make some calls." He disappeared down a hallway before Sienna could respond. Rosa guided her up a staircase that was wider than her entire apartment. "Don't mind him. He gets like this when he's thinking." "Like what?" "Distant. He's planning something. Probably how to make your husband disappear without starting a gang war." She said it so casually that it took Sienna a moment to process. "He wouldn't kill him? Maybe not tonight. But if Marcus is stupid enough to come after you again..." Rosa shrugged. "Lucian doesn't make empty threats." The guest room was bigger than any bedroom Sienna had ever slept in. King-size bed, private bathroom, windows overlooking gardens she could barely see in the dark. "Sit," Rosa ordered, pointing at the bed. "Let me check that arm again." Sienna sat. Exhaustion was hitting her in waves now, each one heavier than the last. Rosa unwrapped the temporary splint and examined the break with gentle fingers that still made Sienna wince. "You're going to need x-rays," Rosa said. "Proper casting, but that can wait until morning. Right now you need rest." "I can't sleep." "Yes, you can. I'm going to give you something for the pain. It'll help." "I don't want..." "It's not optional." Rosa was already pulling supplies from her bag. "You've been through hell tonight. Your body needs a break even if your brain doesn't think so." The injection hurt less than everything else. Within minutes, the edges of the world started going soft. Fuzzy. The pain in her arm faded to a distant throb. "There we go," Rosa said quietly. "Just let it work." Sienna tried to stay awake, tried to think through what had happened, what she'd done, where she was and why. But the medication pulled her under like a riptide, and she stopped fighting. The last thing she heard was Rosa's voice, gentle and far away. "You're safe now, Chica. I promise." She wanted to believe that. She really did. Lucian stood in his office and stared at the city lights through the window. Behind him, Victor waited silently, patient. He'd been Lucian's second for 6 years and knew when to talk and when to shut up. "Tell me about Marcus Cruz," Lucian said finally. Victor pulled out his phone and started reading. "Marcus Anthony Cruz, 32. Works construction when he's sober enough to show up. Been fired from 4 jobs in 2 years. Married Sienna Hayes 3 years ago. 2 domestic disturbance calls to their address, but she never pressed charges. Why not? Same reason they never do. Scared, ashamed, hoping it'll get better." Victor paused. "It never does." "No," Lucian agreed. "It doesn't. What else?" "He's got gambling debts. Owes about 15 grand to a bookie named Paulie Rizzo. That's probably why he's been so wound up lately. Paulie doesn't like waiting for his money." "Paulie works for the Castellanos, right?" "Yeah, low-level stuff, but connected enough to matter." Lucian turned that over in his head. The Castellanos ran the west side. He ran the east. They had an understanding, stay out of each other's way, don't start shit that wasn't worth finishing. But this wasn't about territory. This was personal. "If Marcus disappears, will the Castellanos care?" Victor considered. "Depends on how much money he owes. If it's just 15 grand, probably not. They'll write it off and move on. And if we pay the debt, then they definitely won't care. Might even thank you for cleaning up their books." Lucian nodded slowly. "Make it happen. Pay Paulie. Tell him Marcus Cruz is no longer his problem." "You want me to tell him why?" "No, just pay the debt and leave it at that. The less people know about Sienna, the better." "Understood." Victor made a note on his phone. What about Marcus himself? You want him gone? It would be easy. One phone call and Marcus Cruz would become a statistic, a missing person who'd probably end up in the river in a few weeks. No one would look too hard. No one would care. But Sienna would know. And something told Lucian that making her complicit in murder, even justified murder, wasn't the way to help her heal. Not yet, he said. Put someone on him, 24/7. I want to know everywhere he goes, everyone he talks to. If he even thinks about coming after her, I want to know about it. That's a lot of manpower for one drunk asshole. Then it's a good thing I have the manpower. Victor smiled slightly. Fair point. Anything else? Yeah, find out if she has family, friends, anyone who might be looking for her. You want me to contact them? No. Just find out who they are. She'll decide what to tell them when she's ready. Victor left. Lucien stayed at the window and watched the city that belonged to him in all the ways that mattered. Power, control, territory. He'd built his empire from nothing, and now half the criminals in the city paid him tribute in one form or another. But standing here now, thinking about a woman sleeping upstairs with a broken arm and too many bruises, none of it felt like enough. His sister's face flickered through his mind. Elena, 17 years old and beautiful and so goddamn trusting. She'd believed her boyfriend when he said he loved her, believed him when he promised to change, believed him right up until the moment he put her in the hospital. Lucian had been at college when it happened, 300 miles away, studying business like their parents wanted, trying to be legitimate. By the time he got the call, it was too late. Elena died before he made it home. He dropped out the next day, came back to the city, found the boyfriend and made sure justice happened even if the law wouldn't deliver it. That was 12 years ago. Since then, he'd built something that mattered, something that protected people the law ignored. It wasn't clean, it wasn't legal, but it was effective. And now Sienna Cruz had stumbled into his life with a wrong number and a desperate text, and all he could think was, not again, not on my watch. He pulled out his phone and looked at their message thread. Her words still there, black and white and terrifying in their simplicity. Mom, I need help. He hurt me bad this time. Not this time. Not ever again. He'd make sure of it. Morning came too bright and too early. Sienna woke to sunlight streaming through windows she didn't recognize, in a bed that wasn't hers, with an arm that hurt like hell despite whatever Rosa had given her. For one confused moment, she thought maybe it had all been a dream. The text, the rescue, Lucian Varela and his impossible house. Then she tried to move her arm, and reality came crashing back. Someone knocked on the door. You awake? Rosa. Sienna recognized the voice. Yeah, she managed. Come in. Rosa entered carrying a breakfast tray that looked like something from a hotel. Coffee, toast, eggs, fruit. More food than Sienna usually ate in a day. How are you feeling? Rosa set the tray on the nightstand. Like I got hit by a truck. Close enough. Your arm's going to hurt worse today. Swelling's peaked. We need to get you to a doctor. I told you. I know, no hospitals. Lucian's already handled it. Rosa poured coffee into a mug. He's got a guy. Doctor. Discreet. Makes house calls for people who can't go through normal channels. Why would he need someone like that? Rosa gave her a look. You really asking that question? Right. Mafia boss. Of course he had a discreet doctor. Probably had discreet everything. When's he coming? Sienna asked. About an hour. Eat something first. You need the energy. Sienna tried. Got through half a piece of toast and some coffee before her stomach decided it was done. Rosa didn't push. Where's Lucian? Sienna asked. Downstairs, working. He's been up since 5. Does he sleep? Not much. Rosa started tidying up the medical supplies scattered around. He's got insomnia. Has for years. Usually works through it. Sienna sipped her coffee and tried not to think about what kind of work a man like Lucien did at 5 in the morning. Probably nothing good, probably nothing legal. And yet he'd saved her. Can I ask you something? Sienna said. Sure. Why does he care? I mean, really, he doesn't know me. This isn't his problem. Rosa was quiet for a moment. When she spoke, her voice was softer. You know about his sister? He mentioned her in a text. Elena. She was 17 when her boyfriend killed her. Beat her to death over 3 days while Lucian was away at school. Rosa met Sienna's eyes. He blames himself. Thinks if he'd been there, if he'd known, he could have stopped it. So now when he sees someone in that situation, he doesn't hesitate. Can't. It's like he's trying to save Elena over and over again. Sienna's chest tightened. I'm not her. No, but to him, you're close enough. That should have been comforting. Instead, it just made everything more complicated. She wasn't a surrogate for a dead girl. She was a real person with real problems, and using her to work through his guilt wasn't going to help either of them. But what choice did she have? Go back to Marcus? End up dead for real? At least here she had a chance. The doctor arrived exactly when Rosa said he would. Older man, 60-something, with steady hands and kind eyes that had probably seen too much. He introduced himself as Dr. Chen and didn't ask any questions about how she'd gotten hurt. The x-rays, taken with a portable machine he brought with him, confirmed what Rosa already knew. Clean break, radius, and ulna both. He set the arm with professional efficiency while Rosa held her steady and murmured encouragement. The cast was bright blue. Sienna almost laughed when she saw it. Color preference? Dr. Chen asked with a slight smile. I didn't know I had options. You always have options. He finished wrapping and stepped back to admire his work. That'll need to stay on for 6 to 8 weeks. Keep it dry. Keep it elevated when possible. Take these for the pain. He handed her a prescription bottle. And come see me in 2 weeks for a follow-up. It's handled, Rosa said. Don't worry about it. After Dr. Chen left, Sienna sat on the edge of the bed and stared at her new cast. Blue. Bright. Impossible to hide. Everyone would see it and know something had happened. Maybe that was the point. You should get some air, Rosa said. Walk around. Sitting in this room all day won't help. Sienna wasn't sure anything would help, but she let Rosa guide her downstairs anyway. The house looked even bigger in daylight. More intimidating. Every room perfect and pristine and clearly maintained by people who got paid to care. They found Lucian in what he apparently called his study, a room lined with books and dominated by a massive desk covered in papers and laptops. He looked up when they entered. How's the arm? Broken, Sienna said. Still. Dr. Chen take care of you? Yeah, thanks. He nodded and went back to his laptop. Dismissed. Just like that. Rosa cleared her throat. Boss, she needs clothes. Can't wear the same thing for 3 days. Lucian looked up again, actually seeing Sienna this time, taking in her borrowed sweats and the way she was still favoring her left side. Right. Yeah. He pulled out his phone. What size? What? Clothes. What size? I can just go home and get... No. His voice was flat. Final. You're not going back there. It's my apartment. Not anymore. I'll send someone to pack your things. But you're not going back. Sienna's temper flared despite the exhaustion. You can't just decide that. I can, and I did. You don't own me. Never said I did. He set his phone down and looked at her directly. But I'm not letting you walk back into a situation that almost killed you. So yeah, I'm deciding. Deal with it. Who the hell do you think you are? The person keeping you alive. They stared at each other. Sienna wanted to argue more, wanted to fight for autonomy she'd lost years ago. But he wasn't wrong. Going back to the apartment meant going back to Marcus. And going back to Marcus meant dying, eventually. She hated that he was right, almost as much as she hated needing him to be. Fine, she said finally. Size 6, medium shirts. Lucian made a note on his phone. Rosa will take you shopping later. Get whatever you need. I don't have money for... I didn't ask if you had money. I'm not a charity case. No, he agreed. You're someone who needs help. There's a difference. Before Sienna could respond, his phone buzzed. He checked it, and his expression changed. Got darker. What is it? Rosa asked. Marcus filed a missing person report. Says his wife disappeared and he's worried about her safety. Sienna's blood went cold. He's looking for me. Of course he is. He's not stupid enough to lose his favorite punching bag without a fight. Lucian stood up. Victor's handling it. Police won't find anything. You were never here. What about my mom? My friends? They'll be looking for me too. Then call them. Tell them you're safe. Tell them you left Marcus and you're staying with a friend. Don't tell them where. They'll want to see me in a few days, when things settle down. He moved to the window. Right now, the less people know, the safer you are. Sienna wanted to argue but couldn't find the energy. Everything felt surreal, like she was watching her life happen to someone else. I should call my mom, she said quietly. Lucian handed her his phone. Use this. Don't use your old number. He might be tracking it. The paranoia should have seemed excessive. Instead, it just seemed smart. Her mother answered on the second ring. Hello? Mom, it's me. Sienna? Whose number is this? Where are you? I'm safe. She glanced at Lucian. He nodded. I left Marcus. Silence. Then, oh, thank God. Baby, I've been so worried. He called me last night, said you were missing, said, I'm fine, I promise. I just needed to get out. Where are you staying? I'll come get you. I'm with a friend. Mom, I can't tell you where right now. It's complicated. Sienna Marie, if you're in some kind of trouble, I need some time. Please, trust me. Another pause. Longer this time. You promise you're safe? I promise. Okay. Okay. But you call me every day, every single day, or I'm filing my own missing person report. Despite everything, Sienna almost smiled. I will. I love you. I love you too, baby. Be careful. She hung up and handed the phone back to Lucian. She's going to worry. Mothers do that. Something in his voice made her look at him. Really look at him. He was staring out the window again, jaw tight, shoulders tense, carrying weight she couldn't see. Your mom know about Elena? She asked quietly. His expression closed off. Yeah. I'm sorry. Don't be. It was a long time ago. Doesn't make it hurt less. He looked at her then. Something shifted in his eyes. Recognition, maybe. Or understanding. No? He said. It doesn't. They stood there in uncomfortable silence until Rosa cleared her throat. I'm taking her shopping, Rosa announced. Unless you've got objections. Take Marco with you, Lucian said. And stay public, lots of witnesses. You really think Marcus will try something? I think desperate men do stupid things. Better to be careful. Rosa nodded and turned to Sienna. Come on, let's get you out of those sweats. 3 days passed in a strange kind of limbo. Sienna stayed in the guest room mostly, venturing downstairs when Rosa insisted she eat or move around. Lucian was always working, phone calls in Italian and Spanish, meetings with men who looked dangerous and treated him like royalty. She tried not to think about what he actually did, tried not to notice the guns his men carried or the way everyone spoke in code around her. On the fourth day, Victor appeared at breakfast with a folder. Marcus is making noise, he told Lucian, posted on social media about his missing wife, set up a GoFundMe for search efforts. Sienna's stomach turned. He's trying to make himself look like the victim. Obviously, Victor slid the folder across the table. But we've got a problem. One of your old coworkers saw the post, started asking questions. Few more people know you worked at that diner on 5th. So? So Marcus knows that too. He's been there, asking around. Lucian's jaw tightened. How many people? Enough. He's not being subtle. Damn it, Lucian looked at Sienna. Did you have friends there? Anyone who might know where you'd go? Just Amy, the other waitress, but I never told her anything about... She stopped. Oh no. What? Amy knows my mom's address. I gave it to her once for emergency contacts. Lucian and Victor exchanged looks. He goes to your mother's house, Victor said. Things get complicated. My mom can handle herself. Against a drunk with a grudge? Maybe. But why risk it? Lucian stood up. Victor, put someone on her mother's place. Discreet. Just watching. Already done. Of course it was. Sienna pushed her plate away, This is insane. I can't live like this. Hiding. Watching everyone. Being watched. It's temporary, Lucian said. How temporary? Until Marcus either gives up or makes a mistake big enough that we can end this permanently. And if he doesn't do either? Lucian didn't answer, which was answer enough. That night, Sienna couldn't sleep. The pain medication helped with her arm, but did nothing for the thoughts spinning through her head. Around midnight, she gave up and went downstairs. She found Lucian in the study again, exactly where she'd left him 8 hours earlier. Same desk, same laptop, same look of intense concentration. "Do you ever stop?" she asked from the doorway. He looked up, not even startled, like he'd known she was there the whole time. "Not really." "That's not healthy. Neither is getting beaten by your husband, but here we are." The words hit harder than he probably meant them to. Sienna flinched. Lucian saw it, swore quietly. "Sorry, I shouldn't have said that. It's true, though. Doesn't mean I should throw it in your face." He closed the laptop. "Can't sleep?" "Too much in my head." "Yeah, I know the feeling." He gestured to the chair across from his desk. "Sit, talk, or don't. Whatever helps." Sienna sat. The study was quieter than the rest of the house, darker, just the desk lamp and the city lights through the window. "Can I ask you something?" she said. "Sure." "What happens when this is over? When Marcus gives up or gets arrested or whatever? What happens to me?" Lucian leaned back in his chair. "What do you want to happen?" "I don't know. I haven't thought past surviving the week." "Fair. But eventually you'll need to." "I know." She looked down at her cast. Still bright blue, still foreign. "I don't even know who I am without him. I've been surviving for so long I forgot how to actually live. So figure it out." "Just like that?" "Why not? You're smart. You're strong. Stronger than you think. You survived 3 years with a man who was trying to break you. That takes serious resilience. Or serious stupidity." "No. Stupidity would have been staying because you thought it was normal. You stayed because you were scared and trapped and didn't see another option. That's different." Sienna wanted to believe him, wanted to believe she was strong instead of broken, wanted to believe there was a version of her life that didn't revolve around fear. "How do you know?" she asked. "How do you know I'm not just weak?" "Because weak people don't text strangers for help. Weak people don't lock themselves in and fight back. Weak people give up." He met her eyes. "You didn't give up." Something in her chest cracked open, not breaking, expanding, like maybe there was room for hope after all. "Thank you," she whispered, "for everything. I don't know how I'll ever pay you back." "You don't have to pay me back. That's not how this works." "Then how does it work?" Lucian smiled slightly, sad kind of smile. "You heal. You rebuild. You live a life that's actually worth living. That's payment enough." They sat in silence after that. Comfortable silence, the kind you could only have with someone who understood the weight you carried. Eventually, Sienna stood up. "I should try to sleep." "Yeah, me too." He opened his laptop again, clearly lying. "Lucian?" "Yeah?" "Your sister would be proud of you. What you're doing, how you're helping people." His hand stilled on the keyboard. When he looked up, his eyes were darker than she'd ever seen them. Haunted. "Maybe," he said quietly. "Or maybe she'd be horrified at what I've become." "I don't think so." "You didn't know her." "No, but I know you, and I think anyone who loved you would be grateful you're using your power to protect people instead of hurt them." He didn't respond, just looked at her like he was trying to figure out if she meant it. She did. Sienna left him there and went back upstairs. This time, when she closed her eyes, sleep came easier. And for the first time in years, she dreamed about something other than escape. She dreamed about what came after. The call came at 2 in the morning, 6 days after Sienna had sent that first desperate text. She was actually sleeping when it happened, deep enough that the sound of running footsteps in the hallway jolted her awake with her heart already racing. Old instincts. Marcus coming home drunk. Marcus coming back angry. But this wasn't Marcus's apartment. This was Lucian's house. Safe. Protected. Except nothing about those footsteps sounded safe. Her door opened without a knock. Marco stood there, gun drawn, face grim. "Get up. We need to move you." Sienna's blood turned to ice. "What happened?" "Marcus happened. He's out of jail." "What? How?" "Posted bail an hour ago, and he's not alone." Marco was already pulling clothes from the closet, things Rosa had bought her that still had tags on them. "Get dressed. Fast." Her hand shook so badly she could barely grip the shirt. The cast made everything harder, slower. Marco turned his back to give her privacy, but didn't leave the room. "Where's Lucian?" she asked, pulling on jeans one-handed. "Downstairs, getting ready." "For what?" Marco didn't answer, didn't need to. She could hear it in the house now, doors slamming, voices calling out commands, the metallic sound of weapons being loaded. They were preparing for war. She got dressed in record time and followed Marco downstairs. The main floor had transformed into something out of a military operation. Men everywhere, all armed, all moving with purpose. Victor stood by the front windows, coordinating positions on his phone. Rosa was packing medical supplies into a duffel bag, and Lucien stood in the center of it all, perfectly calm, issuing orders like he'd done this 1,000 times before. He looked up when Sienna appeared. Something flickered across his face. Concern, maybe, or regret, but it was gone too fast to name. "How many?" he asked Marco. "Cameras caught 4 vehicles, maybe 12 men total. They're stopped about 2 miles out." "Smart. Far enough they don't trip the close-range sensors." Lucian's jaw tightened. "He brought an army." "Apparently your little talk didn't take. Or it did, and he decided he'd rather die than listen." Lucian looked at Victor. "East wing secure?" "Locked down. But if they breach the first perimeter?" "They won't." The confidence in his voice should have been reassuring. Instead, it just reminded Sienna how far outside normal her life had gotten. Normal people didn't have perimeters. Normal people didn't prepare for home invasions like they were planning a business meeting. "This is my fault," she said. Everyone looked at her. "He's coming because of me. I should go talk to him. Tell him I'll come back. Maybe he'll—" "No." Lucian's voice cut through the room like a blade. "That's not happening. You don't understand. If you just what? Sacrifice yourself so we don't have to deal with this?" He crossed the room in 3 strides and got right in her face. Not threatening, intense. "You think I brought you here just to hand you back over the first time things got difficult? People are going to get hurt because of me. People are going to get hurt because your husband's a violent piece of shit who can't accept that he lost. That's on him, not you. But no buts. You're staying here. You're staying safe. End of discussion." Sienna wanted to argue, wanted to point out that she'd been making her own decisions, however bad, for 26 years and didn't need him deciding what was best for her. But looking around at the men loading weapons and the woman packing trauma supplies, she realized this wasn't about her anymore. This was about Lucian protecting what he'd claimed as his, and apparently she fell into that category now, whether she liked it or not. "Fine," she said. "What do you want me to do?" "Rosa's going to take you to the safe room. You stay there until someone comes to get you." "Safe room?" Rosa jerked her head toward a hallway. "This way." The safe room turned out to be exactly what it sounded like. A reinforced bunker hidden behind a fake wall in the basement. Steel door, no windows, enough supplies to survive a siege. "How often do you use this?" Sienna asked as Rosa ushered her inside. "More than you'd think. Less than we'd need if Lucian wasn't so good at ending fights before they start." Rosa set the medical bag down and pulled out a handgun. "You know how to use one of these?" "No." "Good. Then don't touch it. I'm leaving it here just in case, but seriously, don't touch it unless someone who's not me or Lucian or one of our guys comes through that door." The weight of what was happening settled on Sienna's chest like concrete. "This is really happening. He's really coming here to, what, kill me? Drag me back? Probably both." Rosa's face softened slightly. "Look, Marcus is desperate and stupid, dangerous combination, but Lucian's dealt with worse. We all have. This'll be over soon. And then what? Then Marcus learns what happens when you threaten Lucian Varela's people." The way she said it, so casual, so certain, made Sienna's skin crawl. She'd known from the start what Lucian was. What he did. But knowing theoretically and watching it happen in real time were different things entirely. "Rosa," she said quietly, "is Lucian going to kill him?" Rosa met her eyes, didn't flinch. "Do you want the truth or the comforting lie?" "Truth." "Then yeah, probably. If Marcus survives tonight, he'll just keep coming back. Men like him don't stop. They can't. It's not in their wiring." She checked her phone. "Lucian knows that, so he'll do what needs to be done to protect you." "I never asked him to—" "You didn't have to. That's who he is." Rosa headed for the door. Lock this behind me. Don't open it for anyone except Lucian or me. We'll knock 4 times when it's safe. Wait, you're leaving? Someone's got to patch up the idiots who forget to duck. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. You'll be fine. Just stay quiet and stay put. The door closed with a heavy metallic thunk. Sienna turned the lock and heard it slide home with terrible finality. And then she was alone in a bunker while somewhere above her, men with guns prepared to kill each other over her. The silence was worse than the waiting. Upstairs, Lucian checked his weapon one final time and looked at his assembled men. 12 of them. Against Marcus's 12. Even odds if everyone was equally competent. But they weren't. Marcus had brought street thugs and desperate men who owed him favors. Lucian had soldiers. Men who'd been trained, who'd seen real combat, who wouldn't hesitate when things got ugly. This wasn't going to be a fight, it was going to be a massacre. Part of him felt bad about that. Most of him didn't. Victor, he said, you're on the east entrance with Marco and Dante. Let them get close. I want them to feel confident. How close? Inside the first gate, then light them up. Victor nodded, checked his rifle. Rules of engagement? Non-lethal if possible. Lethal if necessary. But I want Marcus alive. For questioning? For justice. The word tasted bitter. Justice. Like there was anything just about what was about to happen. But justice came in different forms. The law had failed Sienna, failed Elena, failed countless women who died at the hands of men who claimed to love them. So Lucian would deliver a different kind of justice. The permanent kind. His phone buzzed. Security feed. 4 vehicles approaching the outer perimeter, headlights off, trying to be sneaky, failing. They're here, he announced. Positions. His men moved like water, smooth, practiced. Within seconds, the main floor was empty, except for Lucian standing in the entry hall like bait. He checked his watch, checked the security feed, checked his weapon one more time even though he'd already checked it twice, and waited. The first vehicle reached the outer gate. Someone got out. Big guy, probably 6'4", carrying bolt cutters. He went to work on the chain while the others waited. Amateur move. The chain wasn't the real security. The chain was a courtesy. A warning. The cameras were the real security. Lucian's phone lit up with multiple feeds, his men in position, motion sensors armed, every entrance covered. Marcus and his little army were walking into a kill box and didn't even know it. The gate swung open. All 4 vehicles rolled through. Lucian let them get halfway up the drive before he pressed the button. Every floodlight on the property ignited at once, turning night into day. The vehicles screeched to a halt, blinded. Lucian's voice boomed through the external speakers. Marcus Cruz, you're trespassing on private property. Turn around and leave. Now. For a moment, nothing happened. Then car doors started opening. Men piled out, squinting against the lights, weapons drawn. And there was Marcus. Front and center. Looking rough, 3 days of stubble, clothes wrinkled, eyes wild with something that might have been fear or rage or both. Where's my wife? He screamed toward the house. Not your wife anymore, Lucian replied through the speakers. She left you. Get over it. She's sick. She doesn't know what she's doing. I'm trying to help her. The gaslighting was almost impressive. Almost. Last chance, Marcus. Leave now and you might survive the night. Fuck you! Marcus raised his gun, some beat-up 9mm he probably couldn't shoot straight, and fired toward the house. The bullet went wide by 10 feet. Pathetic. But it was enough. Light them up, Lucian said into his radio. The first shots came from the east wing. Precise. Controlled. 3 of Marcus's men went down immediately. Leg shots, shoulder shots, nothing fatal, but definitely incapacitating. The others scattered, trying to find cover that didn't exist. More shots from the west, the north. His men had them surrounded and were picking them off with surgical precision. It lasted maybe 90 seconds. By the end, 10 of Marcus's 12 were on the ground, wounded and screaming. The other 2 had their hands up, surrendering before they got shot, and Marcus was running. Predictable. Lucian stepped out the front door and started walking, calm, unhurried. Behind him, Victor and the others were zip-tying prisoners and calling for medical support. Around him, floodlights turned the estate into a stage. And ahead of him, Marcus Cruz stumbled through the gardens like the coward he'd always been. Lucian caught up to him near the fountain, grabbed him by the collar and threw him to the ground. Marcus tried to swing. Lucian caught his wrist and twisted until something popped. Marcus screamed. You brought 12 men to my house, Lucian said conversationally. 12. You know what I brought? 30. You never had a chance. She's my wife. Say that again and I'll break your other arm. Marcus shut up, smart for once. Lucian crouched down beside him. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to tell me everyone you've talked to about Sienna, everyone you've contacted, everyone who knows she's here, and then you're going to spend a very long time regretting every choice you made that led to this moment. I want a lawyer. Lucian laughed. Actually laughed. You think this is arrest? This is education. You put your hands on someone under my protection. Now you pay the price. I'll go to the police. Tell them everything. Tell them you kidnapped her. And say what exactly? That your wife left you and you tried to murder her in my house? That you brought armed men onto my property and started shooting? Lucian stood up. Please, call the police. I've got 12 witnesses and about 50 cameras that'll tell a very different story than yours. The fight went out of Marcus all at once. He slumped against the fountain, bleeding from somewhere Lucian couldn't see and didn't care about. What are you going to do to me? Marcus asked. Voice small now, scared. What you deserve. Lucian pulled out his phone and made a call. It's done. Bring the car around. He looked down at Marcus one more time. Thought about Elena. About Sienna. About every woman who'd ever been hurt by a man who claimed to love her. You know the worst part? Lucian said. She actually loved you once. Before you ruined it. Before you broke her down piece by piece. She loved you and you threw it away because you're too insecure and too violent to understand what love actually means. I do love her. No. You love owning her. There's a difference. A van pulled up. Victor got out with 2 other men. They dragged Marcus to his feet and shoved him toward the vehicle. Where are you taking me? Marcus tried to resist. Failed. Somewhere you can't hurt anyone else. They threw him in the back. Locked it. The van drove off toward the gates, leaving Lucian standing alone in the fountain courtyard with blood on his hands and something heavy in his chest. It was over. Marcus was neutralized. Sienna was safe. So why didn't it feel like a victory? In the safe room, Sienna heard the shots, heard the screaming, heard everything go quiet, and then nothing. She waited in the dark with her heart hammering and her broken arm throbbing and her mind running through every horrible possibility. Lucian dead, Rosa dead, everyone dead, and Marcus coming down those stairs to finish what he started. Time crawled. Minutes felt like hours. She counted her breaths to stay calm. Lost count around 300. Finally, 4 knocks. She unlocked the door with shaking hands. Rosa stood there, blood on her shirt but smiling. It's over. Is everyone... We're fine. Couple of flesh wounds, nothing serious. Marcus's guys got the worst of it. And Marcus? Rosa's smile faded. Alive. For now. Sienna didn't know how to feel about that. Relief? Disappointment? Both? Where is he? Somewhere safe. Or unsafe, depending on your perspective. Rosa stepped aside. Come on. Lucian wants to see you. They found him in his office, washing blood off his hands in the attached bathroom. He looked up when they entered, face unreadable. You okay? He asked. Sienna almost laughed. You're asking me that? There was a gunfight in your house because of me. Not because of you, because of him. Lucian dried his hands. He made his choices. Now he lives with the consequences. What consequences? What did you do? What I had to. That's not an answer. It's the only one you're getting tonight. He tossed the towel aside and looked at her. Really looked at her. You're safe now. That's what matters. For how long? Until the next time someone... There won't be a next time. I made sure of it. The certainty in his voice should have been comforting. Instead, it just reminded her how much power he actually had, how much he'd used on her behalf, how much she now owed him. Except he'd said she didn't owe him anything, that her healing was payment enough. But standing here in his office with blood still fresh on the porcelain and gunshot victims probably being treated somewhere in the house, healing felt like a luxury she couldn't afford. I should go, she said quietly. Lucian's eyes sharpened. Go where? I don't know. Somewhere. Anywhere. You've done enough. I can't keep putting you in danger. Sienna. He crossed the room in 2 strides. Didn't touch her, but got close enough she could feel the heat coming off him. You're not going anywhere? Not until you're ready. Not until you're strong enough to actually leave instead of just running scared. I'm not scared. You're terrified. I can see it. And that's okay. But running won't fix it. It'll just move the fear somewhere else. So what am I supposed to do? Just stay here forever? Hiding behind your men and your guns and your... She gestured vaguely at everything. This? No. You stay here until you remember who you were before Marcus, until you figure out who you want to be now, until you're ready to build a life that's actually yours. He paused. And then you leave. And you live it. Sienna's throat tightened. You make it sound so simple. It's not. It's probably the hardest thing you'll ever do. But you can do it. How do you know? Because I've seen you survive the impossible. Compared to that, living should be easy. She wanted to believe him. Wanted to believe there was a version of her life that didn't revolve around survival, that actually had room for things like happiness and peace and all those abstract concepts she'd given up on years ago. But belief required hope, and hope required trust. And trust required letting someone in. Okay, she whispered. I'll stay. Something in Lucian's expression softened. Good. Rosa cleared her throat from the doorway. Hate to interrupt, but we've got wounded men who need attention and prisoners who need processing. You coming? Yeah. Lucian looked at Sienna one more time. Get some rest. Tomorrow we'll figure out next steps. What kind of next steps? The kind that involve lawyers and divorce papers and making sure Marcus can't touch you ever again. He left with Rosa, leaving Sienna alone in the office that smelled like expensive whiskey and gun oil and something darker she couldn't name. She should have gone back to her room, should have tried to sleep. Instead, she sat in Lucian's chair and looked out at the city lights that seemed so far away from the life she'd been living. Her phone, the new one Lucian had given her, buzzed with a text from her mother. Call me when you can. I'm worried. Sienna stared at the screen. She should call, should explain, should do a lot of things. Instead, she texted back, I'm okay. I promise. I'll call tomorrow. Not quite a lie. Not quite the truth either. She set the phone down and closed her eyes. Outside, she could hear voices. Victor coordinating cleanup. Marco dealing with police scanners. The machinery of Lucian's world churning on like nothing had happened. Like 12 men getting shot on the front lawn was just another Tuesday. Maybe for them it was. 3 hours later, Sienna woke up in the office chair with a blanket draped over her shoulders. She didn't remember falling asleep. Didn't remember anyone covering her. But the blanket smelled like Lucian's cologne, so she had a pretty good guess who'd done it. The house was quiet now. That heavy 4 a.m. silence where even bad things seemed to rest. She stood up slowly, careful of her arm, and wandered into the hallway. Found Lucian in the kitchen, of all places, making coffee. He looked up when she entered. Couldn't sleep either? I was asleep, in your office, apparently. Yeah. You looked like you needed it more than you needed a bed. He poured 2 cups without asking if she wanted one, just handed her the mug and leaned against the counter. You should know something. Her stomach tightened. What? Marcus is being transferred to county jail in the morning. Multiple charges, assault with a deadly weapon, trespassing, attempted murder. His bail's been revoked. He won't be getting out this time. How did you? I've got friends in the right places. He sipped his coffee. Point is, he's not your problem anymore, legally or otherwise. Sienna sat down hard in the nearest chair. Just like that? Just like that. I don't understand. Why would you? Because someone should have done it years ago. His voice was quiet, tired. Because you deserve better than living in fear, because... He stopped, started again. Because I failed my sister. I'm not failing you. There it was. The truth he'd been dancing around since that first night. This wasn't about her, not really. It was about Elena, about guilt and grief and trying to save someone he couldn't save 12 years ago. She should have been angry about that, should have resented being someone's redemption arc. Instead, she just felt sad. For him. For Elena. For all of them. I'm not her, Sienna said softly. I know. I can't fix what happened to her. I know that too. He set his cup down. But Maybe I can fix what's happening to you. And maybe that's enough. They stood there in the kitchen drinking coffee while the city woke up outside, neither of them talking, neither of them needing to. Eventually, Rosa appeared, looking exhausted but satisfied. All the wounded are stable, prisoners are processed. Police have Marcus's statement about the home invasion he definitely didn't attempt. How much did that cost us? Lucian asked. Less than you'd think. Apparently assaulting a city councilman's house, even by accident, doesn't make you popular with the department. Sienna blinked. Wait, city councilman? Lucian shrugged. Part-time. Helps with permits. Of course he was a city councilman. Of course his criminal empire came with legitimate political connections. Why wouldn't it? Her life had gotten so weird. Anyway, Rosa continued, Marcus is done. His crew is scattered, and word's already spreading that going after Lucian Varella's people is a fast way to end up in intensive care. Good, Lucian said. Let it spread. Rosa looked at Sienna. How you holding up? Sienna paused, took inventory. Her arm still hurt. Her heart was still racing. She was still scared and confused and completely out of her depth. But underneath all that was something else. Something that felt almost like relief. I'm okay. I think. That's a start. Rosa squeezed her shoulder. Get some real sleep. Tomorrow we'll deal with the lawyers. Lawyers. Divorce papers. The official end of a marriage that had stopped being real a long time ago. Sienna should have been devastated, should have mourned what she was losing. Instead, she just felt tired. She went upstairs and crawled into bed fully clothed. This time when she closed her eyes, she didn't dream about Marcus or violence or fear. She dreamed about a house by the ocean with windows that let in sunlight and doors that only locked from the inside. She dreamed about safety. And for the first time in 3 years, she believed it might actually exist. The lawyers arrived at 10 the next morning with enough paperwork to sink a ship. Sienna sat in Lucian's dining room, a space she'd barely seen before, all dark wood and crystal chandeliers, and stared at the stack of documents in front of her. Divorce petition, restraining order, emergency protective order, asset division forms even though she and Marcus had nothing worth dividing except debt. This is a lot, she said quietly. The lead attorney, a sharp-eyed woman named Catherine, who probably charged more per hour than Sienna used to make in a week, nodded. It's comprehensive. We want to make sure there are no loopholes, no way for him to contest or delay. How long will it take? With his current legal situation? Fast. Maybe 60 days if we push. The restraining order is effective immediately. Catherine slid another document across the table. This one's already been filed. As of 8 this morning, Marcus Cruz cannot come within 500 feet of you, cannot contact you, cannot contact anyone on your behalf to contact you. Sienna picked up the paper with her good hand. It felt too thin to carry that much weight, too simple to actually protect her. What if he ignores it? She asked. Then he violates his bail conditions and goes back to jail, and this time there won't be any bail. Catherine made it sound so simple, so clean, like Marcus would just accept defeat and move on with his life instead of finding new ways to make her pay. Lucian must have seen the doubt on her face because he leaned forward. He won't ignore it. He's smart enough to know he's already on thin ice. You don't know that. Actually, I do. I had a conversation with him this morning. Sienna's head snapped up. What? Where? County lockup, before his arraignment. Lucian's expression was unreadable. I made sure he understood the situation. What situation? That if he comes near you again, there won't be enough left of him for the police to find. Catherine cleared her throat. I didn't hear that. Of course not. Lucian smiled slightly. Anyway, point is, he knows, and he's scared enough to listen. Sienna didn't know whether to be relieved or horrified. Probably both. Marcus had terrorized her for 3 years, and now he was the one who was terrified. The power shift was so dramatic it didn't feel real. Okay, she said. What do I need to sign? They spent the next hour going through paperwork. Catherine explained each document in detail, what it meant, what it did, what would happen next. Sienna signed where she was told to sign, initialed where she was told to initial, and tried not to think about the fact that she was legally ending a marriage she'd thought would last forever. Not that it had been a real marriage for a long time. Maybe it never was. When it was finally done, Catherine packed up her briefcase and stood. We'll file everything today. You should have copies by tomorrow. Call me if you have questions. Anytime, day or night. She handed Sienna a business card with 3 different phone numbers on it. Thank you, Sienna managed. Don't thank me. Thank him. Catherine nodded toward Lucian. He's the one who made this happen. After the lawyers left, Sienna sat alone at the dining table and stared at the business card. Catherine Mendoza, attorney at law, specializing in family law and domestic violence cases. How many women had sat where Sienna was sitting right now? How many had signed the same papers, felt the same strange mix of relief and grief? Too many, probably. You okay? Lucian appeared in the doorway. I just signed away my marriage. You signed away a prison sentence. There's a difference. Is there? Sienna looked up at him. 3 years ago, I loved him. I wore a white dress and promised forever. And now I'm sitting in a mansion signing papers that say it was all a mistake. It wasn't all a mistake. You loved someone who didn't deserve it. That's not your fault. Feels like it is. Lucian pulled out a chair and sat down across from her. When Elena died, I spent months thinking about all the things I should have done differently. Should have stayed closer to home. Should have paid more attention when she mentioned her boyfriend was getting possessive. Should have. He paused. Took me a long time to realize the only person responsible for her death was the man who killed her. That's different. It's not. You didn't make Marcus hit you. You didn't make him break your arm or threaten your life. He did that. His choices. His violence. Not yours. Sienna wanted to believe him. Wanted to believe she wasn't somehow responsible for staying too long or loving too hard or hoping too much. How did you stop blaming yourself? She asked quietly. I didn't. I just learned to channel it into something useful. He gestured vaguely around them. Hence all this. The crime empire? The protection racket. There's a difference. Sienna almost smiled. Is there? I like to think so. He stood up. Come on. You've been cooped up in this house for over a week. Let's get you some air. I thought it wasn't safe. Marcus is in jail. His crew is scattered. You've got a restraining order. Lucian pulled out his phone. Besides, I'm not suggesting we go alone. Marco can drive us. Victor can follow in another car. We'll make it a whole production. That sounds exhausting. Or we can stay here and you can keep staring at divorce papers until you spiral. He had a point. 20 minutes later, Sienna found herself in the back of Lucian's car with Marco driving and Victor following in an SUV that probably had enough weapons to stage a small coup. Normal people didn't travel like this. Normal people didn't need armed escorts to go get coffee. But she wasn't normal people anymore. She was Lucian Varela's. What? Guest? Project? Responsibility? She didn't know what to call herself. They drove through the city toward the waterfront. Sienna watched the neighborhoods change through the window. Expensive giving way to working class, new buildings mixing with old, places she recognized from her old life before Marcus, before everything. Where are we going? She asked. You'll see. They pulled up in front of a small cafe she'd never noticed before. Nothing fancy, just a corner spot with big windows and mismatched furniture and the kind of worn-in comfort that only came from years of actually being used. This is Elena's favorite place, Lucian finished. She used to drag me here every Sunday, said they made the best coffee in the city. Something in Sienna's chest tightened. You don't have to. I want to. He opened the car door. Come on. Inside, the cafe smelled like espresso and fresh bread. A woman behind the counter looked up and her entire face transformed. Lucien, Dios mío, it's been months. She came around and hugged him like family. Where have you been? Busy, Maria. You know how it is. Too busy for coffee? Never. Maria looked at Sienna and her expression softened. And who's this? This is Sienna. She's staying with me for a while. Staying with you? Maria's eyes sparkled. That's new. Don't start. I'm not starting anything. I'm just saying Elena would have liked her. The words hit harder than they should have. Sienna had never met Elena. Would never meet Elena. But somehow, knowing she might have passed some imaginary test made the grief feel more real. They sat by the windows with coffee that really was the best Sienna had ever tasted. Lucian was quiet, staring out at the street like he was seeing ghosts. You miss her, Sienna said. Not a question. Every day. He took a sip of coffee. Used to come here every Sunday. After she died, I couldn't. Reminded me too much of what I'd lost. Took me 5 years before I could walk through that door again. What changed? Realized avoiding the pain didn't make it go away, just made it sharper when it finally caught up. He looked at her. You'll figure that out too. Eventually. I'm not avoiding anything. You're avoiding everything. Your mom, your old friends, that diner you used to work at, every piece of your life before you met me. His voice was gentle but firm. I get it. It's easier to start over than face what you lost. But running doesn't heal you. It just moves the wound. Sienna set her cup down harder than she meant to. So what am I supposed to do? Just go back to my old life like nothing happened? No. You're supposed to figure out what parts of your old life you want to keep and what parts you're ready to let go of. And then you build something new from what's left. You make it sound so simple. It's not. It's messy and hard, and you'll probably screw it up a few times before you get it right. He paused. But you'll get there. I believe that. The conversation died after that. They finished their coffee in comfortable silence while Maria bustled around behind the counter and the city moved on outside. When they finally left, Sienna felt lighter somehow. Like maybe Lucian was right. Maybe she could build something new. Maybe she didn't have to be defined by what Marcus had done to her. Maybe. That night, Sienna called her mother. She'd been putting it off for days, texting instead of talking, giving vague updates instead of real information. But Catherine's words kept echoing in her head. The restraining order was filed. Marcus was in jail. She was safe enough now to start rebuilding bridges she'd burned. Her mom answered on the first ring. Sienna Marie Cruz, you have exactly 10 seconds to explain why I haven't seen you in over a week. Hi, Mom. Don't hi, Mom me. I've been worried sick. You can't just text, I'm fine, and expect that to be enough. Sienna took a breath. I left Marcus. Silence. Long enough that Sienna thought the call had dropped. Mom? I'm here. I'm just... Her mother's voice cracked. Oh, baby. Finally. I've been praying for this for 2 years. You knew? Of course I knew. You think I couldn't see the bruises you tried to hide? The way you flinched when he raised his voice? I knew. I didn't know how to help without pushing you further away. Guilt flooded through Sienna. I'm sorry. I should have. You should have nothing. You did what you needed to survive. That's all any of us can do. Her mother paused. Where are you staying? With a friend. What friend? You don't have any friends Marcus didn't run off. Fair point. His name's Lucian. It's complicated. Complicated how? Sienna looked around the guest room that was bigger than her old apartment. At the closet full of clothes she hadn't paid for. At the life she'd somehow stumbled into by typing one wrong digit. He helped me leave. Kept me safe when Marcus came after me. Got me lawyers. Got me... She stopped. He got me free. And what does he want in return? Nothing, I don't think. Men always want something, baby. Not this one. He's different. Even as she said it, Sienna wondered if it was true. Lucian had been nothing but protective and respectful. But he was also a man with power and connections and a criminal empire. Men like that didn't do favors without expecting something back. Did they? I want to meet him, her mother said. This Lucian. I want to see where you're staying. Make sure you're actually safe. Mom? Non-negotiable. You pick a day and I'm coming over. Or I'm showing up unannounced. Your choice. Sienna smiled despite herself. Okay, I'll talk to him. Good. I love you. And Sienna? Yeah? I'm proud of you for leaving, for choosing yourself. That takes courage most people never find. The words hit harder than they should have. When was the last time someone had been proud of her? When was the last time she'd done something worth being proud of? I love you too, Mom. After they hung up, Sienna sat on the edge of the bed and let herself cry. Not the scared crying from before. Not the painful crying that came with broken bones and bruised ribs. This was different, cleaner, like maybe she was washing something away. The knock on her door was soft. Sienna, you okay? Rosa, always checking, always worrying. Yeah, I'm fine. Can I come in? Sure. Rosa opened the door and immediately saw the tears. Didn't comment, just sat down on the bed next to Sienna and waited. I called my mom, Sienna said eventually. How'd that go? She wants to meet Lucian, make sure I'm actually safe and not being held hostage by some crime lord. Rosa laughed. Smart woman. When's she coming? I don't know. I have to ask Lucian if it's okay first. It'll be fine. He likes mothers, reminds him of his own. Where is she? His mother? Rosa's smile faded. Dead, cancer, about 8 years ago. His dad went 6 months later. Heart attack, but really it was grief. They were that kind of couple. Couldn't exist without each other. That's awful. Yeah, Elena's death nearly destroyed them, losing both parents after that. Rosa shook her head. Lucian doesn't talk about it much, but I think that's when he really committed to this life. When he stopped trying to be legitimate and just accepted what he was good at. Which is? Protecting people the law won't protect. Fixing problems the system ignores. Rosa paused. It's not legal. It's not always moral. But it works. Sienna thought about that. About a man who'd lost everything and decided to use his pain to help others instead of just drowning in it. About someone who saw her desperate text and didn't hesitate. He's a good person, she said quietly. He's a complicated person, Rosa corrected. But yeah, deep down, where it counts, he's good. That night, Sienna found Lucian in his study. As usual, the man practically lived there. My mom wants to meet you, she said from the doorway. He looked up from whatever he was reading. Okay. Just like that? Okay? Why wouldn't it be okay? Because you're, she gestured vaguely. You. And she's going to ask questions. Probably invasive ones. Probably about what exactly you do for a living. I'm a businessman and part-time city councilman. That's the truth. That's one truth. It's the one that matters for your mother. He closed his laptop. When does she want to come over? I don't know. Soon. She was pretty insistent. Tomorrow then. Lunch. Rosa can cook something nice. You don't have to go to all that trouble. Sienna. He stood up and crossed the room. Stopped just close enough that she had to look up to meet his eyes. Your mother's been worried about you for years. She deserves to see that you're actually safe, that someone's actually taking care of you. So, yeah, I'm going to go to all that trouble because it matters. Standing this close to him, Sienna could see details she usually missed. The scar above his left eyebrow, the faint lines around his eyes from too many sleepless nights, the way his jaw tightened when he was trying not to show emotion. He was beautiful in a dangerous sort of way, the kind of beautiful that came with warnings. And she was noticing, which was probably a bad sign. Thank you, she managed, for everything. I know I keep saying it, but then stop saying it. You don't owe me gratitude. You don't owe me anything. I owe you my life. No, Marcus took your life. I just helped you get it back. He stepped away, putting distance between them. Get some sleep. Tomorrow's going to be interesting. Interesting was one word for it. Sienna's mother arrived at noon sharp, dressed like she was going to church and carrying a casserole dish that she absolutely did not need to bring. Mom, you didn't have to. Hush, I wasn't showing up empty-handed. She thrust the dish at Rosa, who accepted it with an amused smile. You must be the nurse. Rosa, and yes, among other things. Good. Someone's got to make sure my daughter's eating properly. She turned to Lucian, who'd appeared from his study wearing an actual suit. Sienna had never seen him in a suit before. It was disconcerting. You must be Lucian. Mrs. Hayes, it's a pleasure. He offered his hand. Professional, polite. Nothing about him screamed crime boss. Her mother shook it but didn't let go, just held his hand and studied his face like she was reading his entire life story in his eyes. You hurt my daughter, she said quietly, and there's nowhere on this earth you'll be able to hide. We clear? Lucian didn't flinch. Crystal. Good. She released his hand and smiled. Now, show me where my baby's been living. The tour was surreal. Her mother oohed and awed over the house. The art, the furniture, the sheer size of everything. But Sienna could see her cataloging details, exits, security measures, the way Lucian's men nodded respectfully when they passed. Her mother wasn't stupid. She knew exactly what kind of house this was. Lunch was awkward at first. Rosa had made something elaborate involving chicken and vegetables and sauces Sienna couldn't identify. Her mother complimented everything while asking increasingly pointed questions. So, Lucien, what exactly is it you do? I manage investments, real estate mostly, some import-export. Import-export? Her mother smiled. That's vague. It's complicated. I'm sure it is. She turned to Sienna. And how did you two meet? Sienna froze. They hadn't prepared a story, hadn't thought that far ahead. She texted me by mistake, Lucien said smoothly. Wrong number. We got a talking. When she mentioned she was in trouble, I offered to help. Just like that? You help every stranger who texts you? No, just the ones who remind me of someone I lost. The honesty in his voice cut through her mother's skepticism. She studied him for a long moment, then nodded slowly. Your sister, she said. Not a question. Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry for your loss. I'm sorry for yours. Her mother's eyes filled. I didn't lose her. She's right here. Because someone actually helped this time, Lucien said quietly. That's all I'm trying to do. Help. After that, the conversation got easier. They talked about safe things, the weather, the city, Sienna's plans for physical therapy on her arm. Her mother told embarrassing childhood stories. Lucien actually laughed at a few. When lunch ended and her mother was getting ready to leave, she pulled Sienna aside. He's dangerous, she said quietly. You know that, right? I know. But he's also in love with you. Sienna's heart stopped. What? No, he's not. We're not. Maybe he doesn't know it yet. Maybe you don't either, but I've been married 30 years. I know what a man in love looks like, and that man is in love. Mom, you're reading into things. Am I? Her mother squeezed her hand. Just be careful, baby. Men like him, they're complicated. They'll protect you with everything they have, but they'll also destroy anyone who threatens you. Make sure you're okay with that before you get too attached. She kissed Sienna's cheek and left, taking her empty casserole dish and her uncomfortable observations with her. Sienna stood in the entryway for a long time after the car disappeared, her mother's words echoing in her head. In love with you. That was ridiculous. Lucien barely knew her. He was helping because of Elena, because of guilt, because he had the resources and she had the need. It wasn't love. Was it? Your mother's terrifying, Lucien said from behind her. Sienna jumped. How long have you been standing there? Long enough to be appropriately afraid. He smiled slightly. She's good people, though. I can see where you get it from. Get what? The strength, the stubbornness, the refusal to stay down even when life's beating the hell out of you. Sienna turned to face him, studied his expression for any sign that her mother was right, that there was something more than protection happening here. But his face was unreadable, carefully blank. Thank you for today, she said, for being nice to her, for everything. Stop thanking me. I can't help it. Try harder. He started to walk away, then stopped. Sienna? Yeah? Your mother's right about one thing. I am dangerous. And the longer you stay here, the more you're going to see exactly how dangerous. He looked back at her. If that's going to be a problem, tell me now. It's not a problem. You sure? Because what I do, what I am, it's not going away. This is my life. Violence, control, making hard choices that keep people safe but cost pieces of my soul. He paused. I need you to understand that. Really understand it. Before this goes any further. Before what goes any further? But he didn't answer, just walked away, leaving her standing in the entryway with more questions than she'd started with. That night, Sienna couldn't sleep. Again. She lay in bed staring at the ceiling and replaying every conversation, every moment, every time Lucien had looked at her like she mattered. Her mother's words wouldn't stop echoing. That man is in love. But was she? The question terrified her. She'd loved Marcus once. Look how that turned out. Love was dangerous. Love was a weapon people used to hurt you. Except Lucien hadn't hurt her. He'd done the opposite, protected her, given her space to heal, asked for nothing in return except that she get better. That wasn't love. That was... What was that? Around 2 a.m., she gave up on sleep and went downstairs. Found Lucien where she always found him. Study, laptop, Coffee that had probably gone cold hours ago. Can't sleep? He asked without looking up. Can you? Never. She sat in the chair across from his desk, the one she was starting to think of as hers. My mother thinks you're in love with me. That got his attention. He looked up, eyes sharp. Does she? Yeah. Is she right? The silence stretched. Lucian set his coffee down, closed his laptop, looked at her with an intensity that made her breath catch. I don't know, he said finally. I know I think about you constantly. I know the idea of you getting hurt makes me want to burn the world down. I know I'd do anything, literally anything, to keep you safe. He paused. Is that love? Maybe. Or maybe it's just guilt and grief and trying to save someone I couldn't save 12 years ago. I'm not Elena. I know, believe me, I know. He ran a hand through his hair. You're stronger than she ever got the chance to be. Braver, more resilient. You survived hell and came out fighting. Elena she didn't get that chance. So what am I to you? Honestly, I'm still figuring that out. He stood up and moved to the window. What am I to you? The question caught her off guard. What was he? Savior? Friend? Something more? You're the person who answered when I needed help, she said slowly. You're the person who didn't hesitate, who didn't ask questions or judge or tell me it was my fault. She paused. You're the first person in 3 years who made me feel like I mattered. You do matter. To you, maybe. I'm not sure I matter to myself yet. Lucian turned to look at her. Then maybe that's what we both need to figure out. Who we are to ourselves before we try to figure out what we are to each other. It was the smartest thing either of them had said all night. Okay, Sienna agreed. We figure ourselves out first. And then? And then we see what happens. It wasn't a declaration. It wasn't a promise. But standing there in his study at 2 a.m. with honesty hanging between them like a living thing, it felt like the beginning of something that might actually be worth fighting for. The divorce papers arrived 3 weeks later, signed and notarized and official. Marcus had agreed to everything. No contest, no appeals, no drama. Catherine called it a miracle. Sienna called it survival. She sat in Lucian's study holding the final decree and felt nothing. No relief, no sadness. Just empty space where a marriage used to be. You okay? Lucian asked from the doorway. I don't know what I am. She set the papers down. 3 years of my life, reduced to 6 pages of legal jargon, doesn't seem like enough. It's not about the pages. It's about what comes next. And what comes next? He walked in and sat across from her. Whatever you want, that's the point. What did she want? The question had haunted her for weeks. She'd spent so long surviving that she'd forgotten how to actually live, forgotten what her own dreams looked like, separate from someone else's control. I want to matter, she said quietly. I want to do something that means something, help people the way you helped me. Lucian leaned back in his chair. How? I don't know yet. But when I was in that apartment with a broken arm, thinking I was going to die, I kept wondering how many other women were in the same situation, too scared to leave, too trapped to ask for help. And I thought, she paused. I thought if I survived this, I'd find a way to help them. Something shifted in Lucian's expression, pride maybe, or recognition. Tell me more, he said. So she did. The ideas had been forming in her head for days, half-formed and uncertain. A shelter, a foundation. Something that actually protected women instead of just processing them through a broken system. A place where they could heal without judgment, where they could learn to be strong again. It would take money, Lucian said when she finished. A lot of money. I know, I don't have any. I do. Sienna stopped. What? I have money, resources, connections. If you want to build something that matters, I'll help you build it. He leaned forward. But it has to be yours, your vision, your leadership. I'll fund it and support it, but this can't be my project. It has to be yours. Why? Because you need something that's just yours. Something Marcus never touched. Something that proves you're more than what he tried to make you. He paused. And because Elena deserved better than what she got. If we can build something that saves even one woman, then maybe her death meant something. The honesty in his voice broke something open in Sienna's chest. This wasn't just about her, it was about every woman who'd ever been hurt by someone who claimed to love them. Every sister who'd died too young, every daughter who'd never gotten the chance to become who she was meant to be. "Okay," she whispered. "Let's build something." They spent the next 2 months planning. Sienna researched shelters and programs and talked to survivors who'd escaped situations like hers. Lucian handled the logistics, finding a building, hiring staff, navigating the maze of permits and regulations. Rosa recruited nurses and counselors. Victor handled security because, of course, they needed security. The building they found was in the east side, not far from where Sienna's old apartment had been. 6 stories. Former hotel. Perfect for converting into temporary housing with counseling spaces and medical facilities. Sienna stood in the empty lobby on the day they signed the lease and tried to picture it full of women finding their way back to themselves. Tried to imagine being the person who helped them get there. "You're thinking too loud," Lucian said beside her. "I'm terrified I'm going to screw this up." "You will. Everyone screws up their first try at something. But you'll learn, you'll adapt, you'll get better." He looked around the empty space. "And every woman who walks through these doors will get a chance she might not have had otherwise. That's what matters." What if it's not enough? It's never enough. But it's more than nothing, and more than nothing saves lives. The truth of that settled into Sienna's bones. She couldn't save everyone, couldn't undo every wrong. But she could do something, and something was worth fighting for. They opened the doors 6 months after that first desperate text. The Elena Hayes Foundation for Women's Safety, named after the girl who didn't get saved so that others might. Lucian stood in the back during the small opening ceremony, refusing to speak or take credit. This was Sienna's moment, her accomplishment. He'd just provided the resources. But watching her address the small crowd, her voice steady, her conviction clear, he felt something shift in his chest. Pride, yes, but something deeper. Something that felt dangerously close to the thing they'd been dancing around for months. After the ceremony, after the donors left and the volunteers went home, Sienna found him in what would become her office. "Thank you," she said, "for all of this." "Stop thanking me." "Never." She sat on the edge of the desk. "Can I ask you something?" "Always." "That night when I texted you by mistake, why did you really come? Was it just about Elena?" Lucian was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was softer than she'd ever heard it. "At first, yeah. It was about Elena, about guilt and grief and trying to save someone I couldn't save 12 years ago." He met her eyes. "But somewhere between that first text and now, it stopped being about her and started being about you, about who you are, about watching you survive and heal and become someone extraordinary." "I'm not extraordinary." "You are. You just don't see it yet." He stood up and crossed to where she sat, close enough to touch, but not touching. "You took the worst thing that ever happened to you and turned it into something that helps people. That's extraordinary." "I had help. Everyone needs help. That's not weakness. That's being human." They stood there in the almost dark office with the city lights coming through the windows. So close, Sienna could feel the warmth radiating off him, could see the faint scar above his eyebrow, could count the different shades of brown in his eyes. "I think I'm falling in love with you," she said quietly. "And it terrifies me." "Why?" "Because the last time I loved someone, he nearly killed me." "I'm not him. I know. But my brain doesn't always remember that." She looked down at her hands. The cast was gone now, replaced by a thin scar that would probably fade in time. "What if I'm too broken to do this right?" "You're not broken. You're healing. There's a difference." Lucian reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away, and lifted her chin so she had to look at him. "And I'm falling in love with you too. Have been for months. Probably since that night you called your mother and thanked me for making you feel like you mattered. That was forever ago. I know I've been trying to fight it, telling myself it was too soon for you, that you needed time to heal, that getting involved would be taking advantage." He smiled slightly. "But then you went and became this incredible person who builds foundations and helps people, and I realized I was fighting a losing battle." "So what do? We take it slow. We figure it out as we go. We screw up and apologize and try again." He paused. "And we remember that love isn't supposed to hurt. Real love makes you stronger, not smaller." Sienna thought about that. About Marcus, who'd used love as a weapon. About Lucian, who'd used love as a shield. About the difference between someone who destroyed you and someone who helped you rebuild. Okay, she whispered. Let's try. He kissed her then, soft and careful, and nothing like the violence she'd learned to expect. This was gentle. This was asking permission with every touch. This was love that made her feel safe instead of scared. When they pulled apart, Sienna was crying, happy tears for once. Too much? Lucian asked, concerned. No, perfect. She wiped her eyes. I forgot what it felt like to be touched like I mattered. You matter, to me. To the women who'll come through these doors. To everyone whose life you're going to change. He kissed her forehead. Don't forget that. She wouldn't. Not anymore. The first resident moved into the foundation 3 days later. Her name was Jessica, 23, broken arm, bruised ribs, story that sounded too familiar. Sienna sat with her in the intake room and held her hand while she cried. Told her she was safe now. Told her this was the beginning of something better. How do you know? Jessica asked. How do you know it gets better? Sienna showed her the scar on her arm. Because I was you 6 months ago. Broken and scared and convinced I'd die in that apartment. And then someone helped me, gave me a chance to survive, to heal, to become someone who could help others survive too. Just like that? Not just like that. It was hard. It still is some days. But hard isn't impossible. And impossible isn't permanent. She squeezed Jessica's hand. You're going to make it. I promise. She'd make sure of it. Over the next year, the foundation grew. More residents, more success stories, more women who walked out stronger than they'd walked in. Sienna hired a staff, developed programs, partnered with law enforcement and legal aid and medical facilities. And slowly, piece by piece, she became someone she recognized in the mirror again. Lucian was there for all of it, supporting without controlling, helping without taking over, learning how to love someone without trying to fix them. It wasn't always smooth. They fought sometimes, about security protocols, about how much danger she put herself in, about his tendency to solve problems with violence when she preferred other solutions. But they fought fair. They apologized. They grew. And somewhere in all of it, Sienna realized she'd stopped being afraid, stopped waiting for the other shoe to drop, stopped expecting love to hurt. This was what healthy looked like. This was what partnership meant. This was love that built instead of destroyed. Marcus was sentenced to 20 years. Multiple charges, including assault, attempted murder, violating a restraining order. He'd tried to appeal. The appeal was denied. He was locked away in a prison 4 hours upstate where Sienna would never have to see him again. She didn't attend the sentencing, didn't need to. Catherine called with the news, and Sienna thanked her and hung up and felt nothing. Marcus was part of her past now, not her present, not her future. Just a chapter that was finally closed. 2 years after that first desperate text, Sienna stood in the Foundation's new expansion wing and addressed a room full of donors. The Elena Hayes Foundation had helped over 300 women, had a 92% success rate for residents who stayed longer than 30 days, had partnered with 17 other shelters across the state. They were making a difference, real, measurable difference. None of this would exist without the women who trust us with their stories, Sienna said to the crowd. And it wouldn't exist without the people who believe that every woman deserves safety, deserves healing, deserves a chance to become who she's meant to be. She caught Lucian's eye in the back row. He smiled, that small, private smile that was just for her. After the event, they drove home together. Not to his house anymore. To their house, the one they'd bought 6 months ago. Smaller than his estate, but big enough for the life they were building. You were amazing tonight, Lucian said as they pulled into the driveway. I was terrified. Didn't show. Good. That means I'm getting better at faking confidence. She unbuckled her seatbelt. Thank you for being there. Always. Inside, they collapsed on the couch with takeout and wine and the comfortable silence of people who didn't need to fill every moment with words. I've been thinking, Lucian said eventually. Dangerous. Probably. He set his wine down. What would you think about expanding the foundation, opening branches in other cities, really scaling the impact? Sienna considered it. The logistics would be complicated, the funding would be substantial, but the need was there. Women everywhere trapped in situations they couldn't escape. It would take years to build, she said slowly. We have years. It would cost millions. I have millions. It would mean traveling, being away from home more pressure, more responsibility. You can handle it. He looked at her. The question is, do you want to? Did she? A year ago, the idea would have overwhelmed her. But she'd grown since then, gotten stronger, learned what she was capable of when she had support and resources and belief in herself. Yeah, she said, I want to. Then let's do it. They started planning that night. Not the detailed planning that would come later with lawyers and accountants, just the dreaming, where they'd expand first, how they'd replicate the model, what success would look like. And for the first time in her life, Sienna's dreams felt achievable instead of impossible. 3 years after the wrong text that changed everything, Sienna married Lucien in Maria's cafe where he'd brought her that first day. Small ceremony, just family and close friends. Rosa cried. Victor gave a speech about how Lucien had finally found someone who called him on his bullshit. Sienna's mother blessed them in Spanish and English and told Lucien she'd been right about him from the start. It wasn't a fairy tale. Fairy tales didn't have scars and trauma and complicated pasts. But it was real. It was hard-won. It was built on foundation of mutual respect and honest communication and love that didn't demand perfection. It was enough. No, it was more than enough. It was everything. 5 years after that first text, the Elena Hayes Foundation had branches in 12 cities, had helped over 2,000 women escape violence, had changed laws and policies, and the way people thought about domestic abuse. And Sienna Cruz, now Sienna Varela, stood in the original building's lobby and watched women stream in for the annual Survivor celebration. Women who'd made it out, who'd rebuilt their lives, who'd become doctors and teachers and artists and mothers and everything they'd been told they couldn't be. This was the legacy, not the money or the buildings or the programs, the lives. The futures that almost didn't happen. A young woman approached her, early 20s, confident, smiling. Miss Varela, I wanted to thank you. I was a resident here 4 years ago. You helped me get my GED, helped me apply to college. I just graduated, pre-med. Sienna hugged her. I'm so proud of you. I want to come back, after medical school, work as a volunteer physician, help the way you helped me. We'd love that. The young woman moved on. Another approached. Then another. Stories of survival and success. Stories that proved healing was possible, that violence didn't have to be forever. Lucien found her after the celebration ended, wrapped his arms around her from behind and rested his chin on her shoulder. You did good, baby. We did good. Mostly you. He kissed her temple. I just wrote the checks. You did more than that. You believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. You gave me space to heal. You loved me through the hard parts. Still do. Always will. They stood there in the empty lobby as evening light slanted through the windows. This building that had started as a dream, this foundation that had become a movement, this life they'd built from the ruins of their worst moments. Do you ever think about that night? Sienna asked. The text? What would have happened if I'd typed the right number? All the time. And I think everything happens for a reason. Elena died so I could understand why this matters. You suffered so you could help others survive. We found each other because we both needed to believe that broken things can be fixed. He turned her around to face him. Some mistakes are actually miracles. You just have to be brave enough to see them. Sienna thought about that, about the woman she'd been 3 years ago, terrified and broken, and convinced she'd die on a kitchen floor. About the woman she was now, strong and purposeful, and surrounded by love that built instead of destroyed. About the single typo that had saved her life and given her a future worth living. You're right, she said. Best mistake I ever made. 7 years after that first desperate text, Sienna Varela sat in the Foundation's main office and reviewed expansion proposals while her 3-year-old daughter colored at a small table in the corner. Elena, named after the sister Lucien lost, the girl whose death had sparked everything, looked up from her drawing. Mama, is this pretty? Sienna studied the chaotic swirl of colors that might have been a flower, or a monster, or pure abstract joy. It's beautiful, baby, just like you. Elena beamed and went back to coloring. Lucien appeared in the doorway, still in his suit from whatever meeting he'd just left. He'd cut back on the dangerous parts of his business over the years, still ran things, still had the connections, but focused more on the legitimate side. City council had become state legislature. The foundation had become his priority too. They were building something that mattered, together. "How was the meeting?" Sienna asked. "Good. The state's approved funding for 3 more branches. We're officially statewide." He crossed to where Elena sat and kissed the top of her head. "What are you drawing, Princess?" "It's us. See? That's you, and that's Mama, and that's me, and that's Tia Rosa, and that's Uncle Victor. It's perfect." And it was. Not because the drawing was technically good, it was objectively terrible, but because it showed a family, imperfect and complicated and built from pain, but a family nonetheless. That night, after Elena was asleep and the house was quiet, Sienna and Lucien sat on their back porch and watched the city lights. "Do you think we're doing enough?" Sienna asked. "With the foundation, I mean. There are still so many women who need help." "We're doing what we can. That's all anyone can do." He took her hand. "You want to save everyone. I understand that. But you can't. You can only save the ones who reach out, the ones who are ready. What about the ones who aren't ready? You be there when they are. That's all you can do." He paused. "You know what I think about sometimes?" "What?" "What my life would look like if you hadn't sent that text. If you typed the right number and called your mom instead." He looked at her. "I'd probably still be angry and guilty and trying to fix something that can't be fixed. But you gave me something to believe in again. Purpose. Hope. Love that actually means something. You gave me the same thing. Then I guess we saved each other." Sienna leaned against him. "Yeah, I guess we did." The truth was more complicated than that. Salvation wasn't a one-time thing. It was daily. Choosing to be better, choosing to heal, choosing love over fear and hope over despair. Some days were harder than others. Some days Sienna still had nightmares about Marcus, still flinched at unexpected sounds, still struggled with trusting that good things could last. But those days were fewer now, farther between. And when they came, she had Lucien, had Rosa, had a daughter who proved that beauty could grow from ashes, had a foundation full of women who understood that survival was just the first step. Healing was the journey. And the journey never really ended. But it got easier. That was the thing nobody told you about trauma. It didn't disappear. You just got stronger, built better coping mechanisms, learned to carry the weight without letting it crush you. And eventually, not immediately, not easily, but eventually, you learned to thrive. 10 years after that first text, the Elena Hayes Foundation operated in 32 cities across 14 states, had helped over 15,000 women, had become a model that other organizations studied and replicated. Sienna had written a book about her experience, given TED Talks, testified before Congress about domestic violence legislation, become someone whose voice actually mattered in spaces where decisions got made. And through all of it, Lucien was there, supporting, believing, loving her with the kind of steady consistency that proved not all men were dangerous. Some men were protectors. Some men understood that real strength meant making others stronger. On the 10th anniversary of the foundation's opening, they held a gala. Huge event. Donors and politicians and survivors all mixed together celebrating a decade of impact. Sienna gave a speech about the power of asking for help, about the importance of being there when someone reaches out, about turning pain into purpose. 10 years ago, I sent a text to the wrong number, she said to the crowd. I was dying on a kitchen floor with a broken arm and no hope left. And a stranger answered. A stranger who didn't have to help me but did anyway. A stranger who saw my desperation and said, I'm on my way. She found Lucien in the audience, held his gaze. That text saved my life. But more than that, it gave me a reason to live. It showed me that broken things can be fixed, that violence doesn't have to be forever, that love is supposed to build you up, not tear you down. She paused, gathering her thoughts. The women we serve ask me all the time, how did you do it? How did you survive? And I tell them the truth. I didn't do it alone. I had help. I had people who believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. I had resources and support, and most importantly, I had someone who saw me as a person worth saving. Her voice cracked slightly. Every woman deserves that, every single one. And until every woman has that, our work isn't done. So thank you for being here. Thank you for believing in this mission. Thank you for understanding that we're not just running a shelter, we're changing the world one life at a time." The applause was deafening. Later, after the gala ended and they were driving home, Lucian reached over and took her hand. "I'm proud of you," he said quietly, "of everything you've built, everything you've become. We built it together." "No, I helped. You built it. There's a difference." He squeezed her hand. "And I'm grateful every single day that you mistyped that number, that I got to be part of your story, that we got to build this life together." Sienna looked out at the city streaming past, all the lights and buildings and lives happening in the dark. Somewhere out there, another woman was probably lying on another kitchen floor, probably scared and hurt and convinced she wouldn't survive. But maybe she'd reach out. Maybe she'd find help. Maybe she'd discover that survival was possible and healing was real and love didn't have to hurt. Maybe she'd find her way to the foundation, find her way to safety, find her way to a future that actually belonged to her. That's what all of this was about. Not perfection, not saving everyone, just being there when someone reached out, being the answer to someone's desperate prayer, being the voice that said, "I'm on my way." "I love you," Sienna said to Lucian. "I love you too." Thank you for answering that night. Thank you for being brave enough to send it. They drove home in comfortable silence, to the house where their daughter slept, to the life they'd built from ruins, to the future that had almost never happened. And Sienna Cruz Varela, survivor, advocate, mother, wife, understood something fundamental about the human experience. We're all one moment away from everything changing. One choice, one text, one person who decides to help instead of looking away. The trick is being ready when that moment comes. Being brave enough to reach out when you need help. Being strong enough to answer when someone else does. Because salvation isn't something that happens to you. It's something you choose every single day. Over and over until choosing becomes living and living becomes thriving. It's not smooth, it's not perfect, it's messy and hard. And some days you want to give up, but you don't. You keep going, you keep fighting, you keep believing that tomorrow might be better than today. And eventually, if you're lucky and you work hard and you have people who love you enough to walk through hell beside you, eventually, tomorrow actually is better. Eventually, you get to stand in a room full of women who survived impossible things and celebrate the fact that you're all still here, still fighting, still proving that violence doesn't win. Love wins, hope wins, resilience wins. And somewhere, in some apartment on some desperate night, another woman is typing another text, making another mistake that might just save her life. The foundation would be there. Sienna would be there. The whole network they'd built would be ready to answer, because that's what they did. They showed up. They said yes. They became the miracle someone else desperately needed. One text at a time, one woman at a time, one life at a time. That was the message. That was the lesson. That was what Sienna wanted the world to understand. You don't have to be perfect to deserve help. You don't have to have it all figured out to start healing. You just have to be brave enough to reach out. And someone will be brave enough to answer. That's what love actually means. Not possession or control or violence disguised as passion. Real love means showing up, means doing the hard work of helping someone heal, means believing in someone's potential even when they can't see it themselves. Real love builds. It doesn't destroy. And if you're lucky enough to find it, the kind that makes you stronger instead of smaller, the kind that asks instead of demands, the kind that stays even when things get hard, you hold on to it with everything you have. You build a life around it. You create something meaningful from it. You pay it forward so others can find it too. That's what Sienna and Lucian had done. Taken their broken pieces and built something beautiful. Taken their pain and turned it into purpose. Taken one desperate text sent to the wrong number and transformed it into a movement that changed thousands of lives. It wasn't the ending either of them expected, but it was the ending they deserved. And as Sienna fell asleep that night with Lucian's arm around her and her daughter safe down the hall, and the Foundation's latest success statistics running through her mind, she understood something profound. The wrong number had been exactly right. The mistake had been the miracle. The worst night of her life had led to the best years. Sometimes you have to break before you can heal. Sometimes you have to hit bottom before you can climb back up. Sometimes you have to lose everything before you understand what actually matters. And sometimes, if you're very, very lucky, A stranger answers your call for help and changes everything. That was her story. That was their story. That was the story of every woman who'd walked through the Foundation's doors and walked back out stronger. It wasn't about perfection. It was about survival, about resilience, about the fundamental truth that humans are capable of extraordinary things when given the chance. All anyone needs is a chance, and someone willing to provide it. Sienna Cruz Varela had been given that chance, and she'd spent the rest of her life making sure others got the same. That was legacy enough for anyone.